Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here. Today we're talking about PlayStation. I think it's time to admit that the era of PlayStation that a lot of us grew up with, that a lot of us fell in love with, is long dead. I think PlayStation at this point is just a console manufacturer. I basically think they don't even have any first-party games. And I want to talk about this and really explore the idea of it, because it really does feel like this very much falls upon the shoulders of Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst. It really does feel like this obsessive push towards live service has not only screwed the gaming industry, but it's very much just gutted the inside of what made PlayStation so great. If you've only been playing on PC or Nintendo Switch and stuff, and you've tried to join like Team PlayStation just in the PS5 generation, you've probably been very confused by the lack of good games. You know, this morning I actually woke up and I went over to my gaming shelf and I was just looking at some old PlayStation 4 classics during the glory days, which is weird to think about because it wasn't that long ago, but just The Last of Us, Infamous Second Son, the Uncharted collection, Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War. Bangers, 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 bangers. We're talking not just games that are a 10 out of 10 fantastic, but I feel like this is the quintessential PlayStation experience. This is the reason that PlayStation became as big, as high-selling, as beloved as it was. Single-player, tight, focused games with fantastic combat and incredibly good stories. And at this point, they've given that all up. At this point, Sony just wants to make a system that you play on. They don't care if you're playing third-party games or first-party games. They don't care if they win awards. PlayStation just wants to have that little logo in the corner of anything you're spending cash on. Let's talk about this, because I have to admit that my frustration, it's being echoed throughout the industry. I see even the biggest, most hyped PlayStation fans are basically saying that, yeah, they're still going to play on their PS5 or their PS5 Pro, but at this point, if you expect old school PlayStation to make a return, that ship has sailed. That era is long, long dead. Let's talk. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, obviously, this is spurred by the fact that PlayStation shut down Bluepoint Games yesterday. Now, at this point, PlayStation has shut down a lot of studios. I think they've shut down 4 major studios in the last 3 years, and all of them have been very expensive purchases that were essentially had their plugs pulled specifically because of their live service endeavors. And what are the comments? Herman Hulst has closed more studios than released games at this point. I wish Shuhei Yoshida was still here. No way. Seriously, Sony, this is disappointing. Everybody is like, this is this weird thing, is that Bluepoint Games seem like the most reliable of all their studios, right? People give the criticism that Sony does too many remakes, too many remasters, too many collections. And that was their bread and butter. They literally bought the studio that made the best remakes in the world and then shut them down because they wouldn't do live service. Now, this really does hone down on the problem of it, right? Is that you bought the best remake maker in the world and told them to not make a remake. This really does feel like trying to hire a cameraman and saying, hey, you're the sound guy now. They could probably do it a little bit, but why not let them do the thing that actually makes them money? These people literally could have done this job forever. They literally could have just had them remake Castlevania or Ratchet and Clank or go back and make a new Sly Cooper. I don't know. Anything. And instead, they chose to shut them down. Now, part of the annoyance of this is that these buyouts, when they were first happening, Jim Ryan and a lot of the teams were talking about how great this is, right? How this is. The PlayStation 5 era studio acquisition spree has been a disaster. And again, Herman Hulst has been a disaster. Fire him. I'm sure they'll let go multi-million severance package before falling upwards to the next doomed project. This is the thing that a lot of people have really been spitballing, is that heads need to roll. These companies are not doing stuff on their own. Like, let's just be clear. These studios didn't make these bad decisions because they wanted to make these bad decisions. They're following orders. They're following the orders of Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst. Now, Jim Ryan has a ton of very bad quotes that people bring up all the time. Jim Ryan said no one likes retro games, and then PlayStation Plus Premium became one of the most successful endeavors that Sony has ever done. He has said a lot of very stupid stuff, not just about retro gaming, but just about what he thinks the PlayStation gamers want, right? I think part of my anger is all these shutdowns are because at the same time, the PS5 continues to be the best-selling console on the planet. Again and again and again, month after month after month after month, everybody is buying PlayStation, playing on PlayStation. It is the primary place to play. And instead of Sony using that to make better games, bigger ecosystems, crazier sequels, free updates, instead it just leads to studio closures. And this is a chart I think you need to burn into your brain. This is the top 5 games on PlayStation ranked by total US players, 2025, 2024. And what is it? Identical. Fortnite, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto 5, Roblox, and Minecraft. And you can see not only is it the same games, it's in the same order. Now, why is this so essential? Why is this, unfortunately, so apocalyptic? There has been a lot of talk in the MMO space. I very much love playing MMORPGs. And basically, every new MMO that tries to come out ends up basically instantly imploding, whether it is Ashes of Creation or the Warhammer experiments and stuff. A lot of times it just comes down to the fact that it's hard to get people to quit their current live service addiction, right? I very much love World of Warcraft Classic. I play it pretty much every single day, hours and hours a day. It's hard to tell somebody, hey, this new live service game is so good, you have to quit yours and come play it. And nobody does. I mean, clearly, people are still playing Grand Theft Auto 5, still playing Call of Duty, still playing Roblox, still playing Minecraft, still playing Fortnite, even though that's, honestly, it just seems like so bland at this point. But my point is the fact that Sony is betting that they can make a game so good, you'll quit the biggest games on the planet, that you'll get addicted to their live service, and that's just not how it works. There's been more and more data actually coming out that players are not being held back by money in sort of the same way, right? Which is that it turns out people are buying microtransactions and even buying full-priced games at a pretty decent rate. It's that they're running out of time. There's only so many hours in the day that you're not doing laundry, that you're not doing your job, that you're not sitting in an Uber, that you're not at the gym. There's only so many hours in the day to play. A lot of people are now working more than they ever have. So it is that kind of thing where, hey man, if somebody's only got 30 minutes, maybe they're not going to want to learn a completely new live service game. A lot of these games are all just competing for attention that frankly is a shrinking pool at best. Now, let's talk about the leadership bloodbath that's probably about to happen. So obviously, you can see here, there was an era in the PlayStation 4 that people consider to be the absolute pinnacle. Maybe the true peak of PlayStation was during this late PlayStation 3, early PlayStation 4 with Shuhei Yoshida and Sean Layden. These guys clearly cared about video games. Sean Layden used to do all these jokes where he'd come out on stage with like a big secret reveal and he'd dramatically unbutton his jacket and it'd be Crash Bandicoot or something. Shuhei Yoshida was a guy who's not only the head of PlayStation, he clearly cared a lot about how to get great games in front of people. Like, okay, he was one of the guys that I think was one of the big people behind Expandalones, where you'd get like a really good game and then a really good like piece of DLC. He'd break it off and give that to you for cheap as well. Anything to get those games in front of people with the lowest bar possible. Then, of course, Jim Ryan took over. Now, undoubtedly, Jim Ryan sold a lot of systems. He sold, 80 million PlayStation 4s pretty much because of his decisions directly. But a lot of people think that was mostly a momentum thing. The good decisions, the decade of hard work of these gentlemen led into the Jim Ryan era. But now Herman Hulst, it's weird that Herman Hulst is doing so bad at this. Herman Hulst does seem like a guy that does understand game development, that does understand production times, that does understand budgets, and somehow he still seems so blind to the ambition that the studios themselves already have. Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst have done generational damage to the PlayStation brand. I miss Shuhei Yoshida and Sean Layden as a combo. The focus was single player, new ideas, real exclusives, smaller games. What a time the PlayStation 4 era was. It does suck that we're so nostalgic about something that was so recent, right? And I think that part of this just comes down to the fact that, honestly, I've been saving this tweet forever to put in a video because it's just so odd, right? It does feel like Microsoft has so completely given up on video games, they don't even care. All they talk about is how great AI is. Like, oh, great. Time to shut down another 10 Xbox studios. I do feel like PlayStation has gotten so incredibly lazy because they're no longer having to guard the gates. You're going to buy a PlayStation 5. If you want a game and you don't want to build a PC, you're going to buy a PlayStation 5. That is, for better and for worse, the default. Look at this. This is what they've been up to. Wait, let me show you this one first. This one's even crazier, right? This is PlayStation Studios. This is all the current PlayStation Studios. Time since their last full game release. Sony been almost 7 years. Dark Outlaw has not made any games. Bluepoint just got shut down. Fire Sprite 3 years. Guerrilla Games. Haven Studios. Fair Games obviously not released. Look at the amount of gaps. Housemarque's about to come out with a game, but look at this. It's just wild the amount of things that have not released a game in years and years and years and years. Naughty Dog has not put out a game in 6 years. Media Molecule has not put out a game in 6 years. Can we be real here? There is a very real chance they're about to shut down Sony Bend. They're going to shut down Media Molecule. They're going to shut down a lot of this stuff. And it's not just disappointing. It's disgusting because they bet everything on this. They said they were going to make 12 live service games, and most of them have completely bombed or didn't even come out, right? Deviation got shut down. Naughty Dog's game got shut down. London Studios shut down. Insomniac Games canceled their project internally. Fire Sprite canceled their project internally. Fire Sprite's action shooter, whatever. Firewalk shut down. Bluepoint shut down. Sony Bend probably about to be shut down. My anger is the fact that Sony is arrogant. And I always thought that arrogance for a long time was honestly a good thing. Sony had this era that I like to call the victory lap, where with the PlayStation 4, they'd release a good game and it'd sell like crazy and they would already be hyping the next one. Oh, you really loved the new Gran Turismo. Great. Okay, we'll check out this new piece of crazy DLC for Ghost of Tsushima. Oh, you like that? Okay, here's The Last of Us Part 2. Okay, you like that? All right, here's the next thing. There was this crazy amount to try and keep up. It's not just that the games were good, it's that they were coming out at such a good pace. And they were single player. That to me was so incredibly crucial, right? Great story invested in the character. Here's Nathan Drake. Here's a crazy cool story. Here's this great conclusion to the character. All right, next thing. Here's Sly Cooper. Here's a new Splinter Cell collection like they did on the PlayStation 3. It was just games, 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 games. And then they gave it all up. This video does not really have a point in the grander sense of it. I wanted to talk about it because for a long time, I've gained the reputation as a guy who defends PlayStation too hard because I really did like PlayStation. I really do think they make some of the best exclusives when they made them. But at this point, defending PlayStation feels odd because just in general, PlayStation doesn't feel like it's about play. It's just a station to try and boost profit numbers for a company that truly does not care. If they make a comeback someday, that'd be great. But at this point, I think go where you game. Go where your friends are at. Play what you want to play. But at this point, trying to man the walls in the console war, there's nothing left to defend. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. The end. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.